Yo, YouTube, what's up with your boy? Sports and Fitness Rants. I'm back, guys. Click that like button. Subscribe to my channel. What's up, y'all? Welcome back, guys. Welcome back, man. Got another great video for you guys today. As usual, man, you guys know the deal on this channel. It's all about setting the record straight, stopping the lies, stopping the narrative, stopping them from rewriting history, guys, and holding the standard. And in this video, we're going to set the record straight on these clowns, GOAT James Kingdom. Once again, I want to send a special thanks out to MTAYE, T-A-Y-E, for sending me an email and sending me this post from GOAT James Kingdom from their Facebook page. Now, remember, the GOAT James Kingdom clowns are on Facebook. This is where they get their information. This is where they spread their lies and narratives. This is where they get all their weird followers, all these weirdos out there on Facebook. Who gets their Facebook or their basketball facts from Facebook? You know who, guys? LeBron James fans, that's who. And who posts this stuff on Facebook? You know who? These weirdos like GOAT James Kingdom, guys. So like I said, shout out to MTAYE for sending me this post. And essentially what it was, and I'm going to post a screenshot of this later. It was a post of Ron Harper. And they had Ron Harper's stats before playing with Michael Jordan. And then Ron Harper's stats playing with Michael Jordan. And the caption is saying, quote unquote, Michael Jordan made his teammates better. Right? And they're trying to highlight that Ron Harper was worse playing with Michael Jordan based off of stats. This is what they put out there. That's all they put was stats. Because this is what the LeBron James fans do. GOAT James Kingdom clowns. No context behind this stuff. Classic Nick Wright, classic LeBron James fan stuff. No context. So they're saying that because Ron Harper's quote-unquote stats went down playing with Michael Jordan on the Chicago Bulls, that shows and highlights Michael Jordan didn't make Ron Harper any better. We're going to talk about in this video, guys, because once again, they don't know what context is. They don't know the game. They can't give you any perspective. They can't give you the facts. And we all know that Ron Harper was better playing on Chicago Bulls. What Michael Jordan did for Ron Harper. We're going to talk about in this video, guys. And I want to thank you guys, everyone across the world, everyone across the states has been supporting my channel. Once again, guys, you know, I am truly, truly humbled, man. I want to send a special thanks out to Young Skyler for coming through with the super. Much respect to Young Skyler. And like I said, shout out to MTAYE for coming through. And you guys know what to do. Turn the volume all the way up. Hit that play button. Remember, these videos are for educational purposes. And let's roll. So, yes, guys, like I said, man, I was sent this post from the GOAT James Kingdom clowns over on their Facebook page. Now, like I told you guys, a lot of these weird LeBron James fans, they get their facts, they get their information from Facebook. Now, I've told you guys in the past that I'm not saying that every, source on Facebook is not reliable or there is no factual information on Facebook, to be gathered, from some of these pages, some of these sites. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm telling you guys right now is that most of the LeBron James fans and most of these LeBron James pages are the problem with Facebook because they do similar stuff, similar tactics, right? They post something with zero context behind it. Just post a post that doesn't make any sense, doesn't add up. Anyone that knows the game, when you see this stuff, you automatically laugh at this stuff. That's why I don't go to Facebook. And I don't worry about posting things on Facebook like that because most of the people that are going to Facebook for basketball information, they're lost. They're obviously lost if you're going there. And most of the people on the GOAT James Kingdom website, even their YouTube channel, look at the people that they attract, guys. Now, like I said, this post had to do with Ron Harper. And I wrote down the numbers here that they had posted. Now, like I said, it was a post of Ron Harper. The thumbnail of this video is that post. And I'm going to post the actual post later, probably to show you guys what I'm talking about. I'll highlight this. Now, like I said, it was a picture of Ron Harper. And then it has the stats of Ron Harper when he played for the LA Clippers, right? The years before he came to Chicago Bulls. And then they had the averages, the stats of Ron Harper on the Chicago Bulls. And like I told you, what they're trying to highlight is that Ron Harper's stats went down. So Michael Jordan didn't make Ron Harper any better, right? And then I told you, they put that comment there. They put the quote unquote, MJ made his teammates better. And they put a crying, laughing emoji because that is the emoji of choice for LeBron James fans. They love the crying, laughing emoji. And I told you why. They really believe what they say is funny. They think that they have a post. They post something like this. This dude puts MJ made his teammates better, quote unquote, crying, laughing emoji. Ha, 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 ha. Michael Jordan didn't make his teammates better. He didn't make his teammates better. Blah, blah, blah. I don't know what they talking about. So we're just going to post some stats and not give you any context. And then they put a thumbs down emoji. Thumbs down emoji. So, Ron Harper from 1989 to 1994, they said. So, first of all, they're not even accurate here for the years that Ron Harper played on the Clippers. Remember, Ron Harper was traded in the 89-90 season. So, when they put 1989 to 1994, they should have said 1990 to 1994. But they don't know this kinds of stuff. They're not worried about details. They're not worried about the facts, these GOAT James Kingdom clowns. So, that's a correction right there. So, Ron Harper, 1990 to 1994, before playing with Jordan on the LA Clippers, 19.3. This is the average between those 5 seasons, I believe he was there. Right? 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, guys, all right? So, on those 5 seasons, 19.3 points a game, 5.5 rebounds per game, and 4.8 assists a game. Those are really good numbers for Ron Harper playing on the Clippers. Like I said, those 5 seasons on the Clippers. And then underneath it, they had Ron Harper, 1995 to 1998. You know, it's really funny. Once again, with those years that they put down there for playing with Michael Jordan played 17 games that season with Ron Harper the regular season when he came back. Let's not also fail to mention that in the 1995 playoffs, the Bulls played 10 total games, right? They went to the second round and got knocked out in 6 games against the Orlando Magic, right? They played 10 total playoff games that postseason, guys, all right? 10. And you guys understand that Ron Harper only played in 6 of them. Remember, he only played like, I think, 5 minutes a game. He was injured, Ron Harper. So for them to put 1995 as if he played a whole season with Michael Jordan, and these are the numbers that he got, once again, they're not giving you the facts. That's not the truth. If you're going to come out here and try to put out some stuff like this, then you must be 100% on the money and factual. You have to be real here. Don't be trying to finagle this stuff, and you're not accurate. So put 1996 to 1998, because that's when he played with Michael Jordan, the second three-peat, all right? And then they put the numbers for Ron Harper here. 7.5 points a game, 2.8 rebounds a game, and 2.5 assists per game for Ron Harper. Now, once again, what are they trying to do here? They're trying to show and highlight that Michael Jordan didn't make Ron Harper any better because all his numbers went down when he was playing on the Clippers, and then when he came to the Bulls, all his numbers went down. So obviously, Michael Jordan's not making any better. So the first question I'll ask is, how come they're referring to Michael Jordan here? Why did they should refer to Scottie Pippen, right? Because it was really Scottie Pippen that made the Chicago Bulls, according to people like the GOAT James Kingdom and these weird LeBron James fans, right? They're always pumping up Scottie Pippen as the reason why the Bulls started winning. Jordan was 1-9 without Pippen. So why would you not make this comparison to Scottie Pippen? So obviously Scottie Pippen didn't make Ron Harper any better if you really want to go that route, because you fools keep telling us that Scottie Pippen was the man of Chicago Bulls. That's all I'm hearing from these clowns now. So I'm questioning that. Also, why not Phil Jackson? Phil Jackson didn't make Ron Harper any better? I thought Phil Jackson was the greatest coach of all time, and Michael Jordan's nothing without Phil Jackson or Scottie Pippen. So why are those guys not being referenced here in this post? Phil Jackson didn't make Ron Harper any better. Scottie Pippen didn't make Ron Harper any better based off the numbers, guys. Doesn't add up. So obviously they know that Michael Jordan is that dude because they're always talking about Michael Jordan. This is all they got. They constantly have to tear down Michael Jordan with these weird fake narratives and these lies. No perspective. When I do videos on LeBron James, remember, we're setting the record straight here. I'm giving you guys the facts. Right? That's all it is. We're exposing this stuff. These guys expose themselves with a post like this, a weak-ass post like this. Once again, lets me know you weren't growing up back in them days watching the game, and you did not play sports. You did not play sports because you don't recognize or respect what Michael Jordan did on the court. If you play sports, then you can easily appreciate what Michael Jordan meant to the sport of basketball. It's quite simple. You don't have to think he's the greatest of all time, but for some of these guys to come out here and say the things that they do and make a post like this, you guys are pathetic, sad individuals. Once again, look at these guys. They're losers, man. They really are losers. LeBron James fans are losers. Think about it. They don't hold themselves to any standard, right? They don't hold their favorite play to any standard. They don't care. They're losers, man. Loser mentality. Everybody's a victim. Once again, you're lying about other people. Why are you lying? Because you're a loser. Losers are always lying and making up stories. Like I said, playing the victim, blaming everybody else, never taking any accountability. So this is what they're doing here. They're basing it off the numbers. Anyone that knows the game clearly knows that Ron Harper benefited from playing with Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls. That was a benefit to his career. Can anyone tell me what Ron Harper was winning before he went to Chicago Bulls? Can anyone tell me the accolades that Ron Harper received before he went to Chicago Bulls? And remember, guys, let me also say this. This video is not to take away from Ron Harper. Once again, I've done several videos on Ron Harper talking about how this man was disrespected by ESPN and Netflix, the way they promoted the Last Dance documentary. The way that they promoted that documentary was sad. They promoted guys like Steve Kerr and Tony Kukoc over Ron Harper. In my estimation, it was Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman as the three key members, right? In that order, the importance of what they meant to the championships of that second three-peat. And after Dennis Rodman, in my estimation, it was Ron Harper. It was Ron Harper, the next most important player to the Chicago Bulls. Then you could talk about someone like Tony Kukoc. Then we could start talking about guys like Steve Kerr and the Luke Longleys and some of these other guys that came in and played a role and contributed. But to me, it was Ron Harper after the big three of Jordan, Pippen, and Rodman. Ron Harper was that dude. Now, I've done several videos, like I said, on this man and how they should have been promoting him over someone like Steve Kerr and Tony Kukoc during that Last Dance documentary. But ESPN kept putting Steve Kerr out there. Like I said, it was a sad thing to me. All right? So this is not a knock on Ron Harper. I'm setting the record straight here on the Go James Kingdom clowns. And I'm giving you guys the facts. I'm educating here. And I'm educating the Go James Kingdom people. I'm giving you guys the context and perspective behind their post. All right? If anyone thinks that Ron Harper, was dominating the league, was doing all this crazy stuff, and then came to the Bulls and had to take a back seat because Michael Jordan don't make no one better. Ron Harper wasn't standing in the corner. Ron Harper had a role. He played a role. Remember, it was Ron Harper that made the sacrifice. He made that. That goes to Ron Harper. That's why we respect and appreciate Ron Harper. He earned those championships. He was a key member, right? He played a significant role on those titles, right? So once again, Ron Harper earned it. No one thinks that Ron Harper just rode the coattails of Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman. No, he earned it. He played a role. And once again, he was successful playing that role. Ron Harper playing both sides of the ball. Like I said, playing within himself, within the role. Not trying to shoot all kinds of crazy shots and all this crazy stuff, and they're promoting the stats. So like I said, can anyone tell me what Ron Harper was winning and doing before the Chicago Bulls? Remember, Ron Harper came on the Cleveland Cavaliers. You guys understand that Ron Harper had never even played in a second-round playoff series before he came to Chicago Bulls. Never once, guys. Remember, 1988, they got bounced down the first round by Chicago Bulls. Remember, he was on the Cleveland Cavaliers when he first came to the NBA, Ron Harper. And Ron Harper came in with Jordan-like, comparisons. People were comparing him to a Michael Jordan-type player, a high flyer, an athletic wing that can get up and down the court. Like I said, that can slam dunk the basketball, that can play both sides of the ball. Had the similar dimensions and height of a Michael Jordan. Remember Ron Harper's long arms, right? But he wasn't quite Michael Jordan. We all understand that. But these are some of the comparisons that Ron Harper was getting when he first came in the league. So remember on Cleveland Cavaliers, when he's going against Michael Jordan's Bulls, and you have all these guys. I remember Ron Harper talking about how he wanted to be the guy to guard Michael Jordan in 1989 before he hit that game-winning shot. But we all know that someone like Craig Elo was a very capable defensive player, and he studied Michael Jordan and was a solid defensive player in his own right, Craig Elo. But Ron Harper was on his Cleveland Cavalier teams, all right? He didn't make any all-star appearances, no all-NBA selections, no all-defensive teams. And I believe he was on the Cleveland Cavaliers for, 3 seasons, right? 1988, 1989, and then 1990, he was traded. And remember, he had a significant torn ACL in his knee in 1990 when he was traded to the LA Clippers. So he had to recover that season. So 1990 and 1991 are kind of a wash for Ron Harper as far as his recovery, especially like I said in 1991, he didn't play many games. So when we talk about those aspects of Ron Harper's career, Ron Harper wasn't getting all these all-star selections or, doing all this profound stuff in the league, right? When he went to the LA Clippers, he was a really good player, Ron Harper, but he wasn't getting notoriety because of the talent in the NBA at that time. So Ron Harper goes to the LA Clippers, like I said, in 1990 season. 1991, like I said, he's still recovering from the knee injury, doesn't play that much. And in 1992, 1993, and in 1994, those would be the main years for Ron Harper on the Clippers, right? So when they're talking about Go James Kingdom, they're reading off Ron Harper's stats on the Clippers, 19 points a game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. That's great. But you guys realize that, once again, the Clippers never made it out of the first round, and they went to 2 5-game series, which, once again, that's the full amount for a first round. Remember, it used to be the best 3 out of 5 in those years. And the Clippers went 5 games in 1990, I want to say 1992, and in 1993, I want to say they went 5 games in the first round. I believe in 92, they went 5 games with the Utah Jazz in the first round. They lost in 5 games. And then in 1993, I believe they went 5 games with the Houston Rockets, I want to say, 93 in the first round, guys. So, they were a decent team, but they weren't a good team. They weren't a contender. They weren't formidable. Ron Harper wasn't the leader of that, even the leader of that team. In my estimation, the best player on the LA Clippers at that time was probably Danny Manning, someone who never gets mentioned, from the 90s era of NBA. Danny Manning, who played at Kansas, right? Really good player. He was the Clippers' best player for some years. Then he also started to have some injury problems himself. But Danny Manning was their all-star on that team. Ron Harper never made an all-star team in his career, guys. Not saying that he was an all-star caliber or all-star worthy player. He absolutely was. The injuries kind of derailed his career to a degree. Once again, also the competition and the greatness of the players that he played in the 90s. So once again, it's hard to crack an all-NBA team or an all-star selection when you're a guard in the 90s. Like I say, you talk about the great guard play of the 90s. It's really hard to crack that spot or that rotation in there. But Danny Manning was the best player on the Clippers, but the Go James Kingdom guys are trying to promote Ron Harper's numbers as if he was the leader of the Clippers and he was leading these Clippers teams to like some deep playoff runs. They never made it out of the first round. Never once. And they knock on those guys. Their team wasn't like that. If I remember correctly, I'm trying to remember the Clippers in the early to mid-90s. And like I said, Danny Manning was their best player, right? He was averaging more points, more rebounds. He was the leader of their team. And Ron Harper was their second best player. But in 1992, it was you had Ron Harper on that team, Danny Manning. I think the point guard was Gary Grant, if I remember correctly. You had guys like Charles Smith on that team. You guys remember Charles Smith? So these were like the better players on that team in 1992. Then if I remember correctly, this is when Larry Brown came over. So once again, the Clippers had a really quality head coach in Larry Brown. I believe he was there from 92 to 95. Like I said, if I remember correctly. So it wasn't they had a bad coach. Ron Harper and the Clippers were being coached by Larry Brown, right? A quality head coach. You had some quality players on that team, but Ron Harper wasn't the best player or the leader of that team. He wasn't leading them to the playoffs. It was Danny Manning. And Ron Harper, like I said, was his right-hand man, the next best player on that team. So when they talk about what Ron Harper was doing numbers-wise on the Clippers, he was putting up those numbers on a mediocre basketball team. They weren't contenders, right? They weren't, none of this, like a legit team. None of this stuff. They were a mediocre basketball team that Ron Harper was putting up some decent stats on. That's great, but Ron Harper wasn't winning anything. Like I said, he wasn't making any all-star selections or all-NBA selections on the Clippers because this is how they're trying to promote this. Oh, Ron Harper was putting up all these stats. He was doing all this stuff, but Michael Jordan didn't make him better. If these fools, if anyone thinks that Michael Jordan making his teammates better was simply about the numbers and the stats, you are mistaken, my friends. Once again, let's think about Ron Harper and what he was doing before the Bulls. So that was 1992. Then you guys remember in 1993, after the 92 season, the Clippers would have a trade with the New York Knicks. Remember, the Knicks traded Mark Jackson to the Clippers. And Mark Jackson became the starting point guard of the Los Angeles Clippers with Danny Manning and Ron Harper there. And the Clippers sent Charles Smith to the New York Knicks. You guys remember this, right? I think they also traded Kiki Vandeweghe to the Clippers that season. So that was a big trade, right? Mark Jackson, who won Rookie of the Year for the New York Knicks. The last New York Knicks to win Rookie of the Year was Mark Jackson in 1988. They traded him away to the Clippers. And like I said, Mark Jackson, one of the great passers, one of the great assist men of that time in the history of the game. So that was the team that they had in 1993. Once again, they made the first round and got bounced out in 5 games. And then in 1994, they did not even make the playoffs altogether. Ron Harper, I believe, averaged 20 points a game that season, and they won like 27 games. Or I think they were 27 and 55 that year. And Ron Harper put up 20 points per game, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists, I believe, which are really good numbers, but you're not winning anything. So what happens in 1995? Ron Harper signs, I believe, a free agent deal with the Chicago Bulls, comes over, Chicago Bulls. Michael Jordan's not there, right, in 1995 yet. And he comes to Chicago Bulls. And like I said, he had some injuries that first year. Like I told you, that first playoff run, he missed 4 of the 10 games that season. But then in 1996, 97, 98, we all know what the Bulls would do. Ron Harper would be a key member of this. Let's not forget, Ron Harper went down in 1996 with a knee injury in the NBA Finals. Michael Jordan helped pick up the slack and help support his teammate by stepping up on Gary Payton and doing that at that time on the other side of the court, other side of the ball. But when they talk about the numbers, really, what did Michael Jordan do for Ron Harper? Michael Jordan made Ron Harper a champion. Ron Harper sacrificed those numbers because he wasn't concerned with the numbers, right? He sacrificed those numbers to play on a team, right? And to be and play in a system. So like I said, when Ron Harper came to the Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan was not there yet. So he comes to that team, Michael Jordan shows up, and immediately has an impact on all of these guys. Remember, the Bulls were struggling. They weren't even going to make the playoffs before Michael Jordan came back for those last 17 games. Go look at the amount of wins they had in those last 17 games. They won 13 out of the last 17 games when Michael Jordan came back, or 14 out of the last 17 games, or whatever it was that they won when Michael Jordan came back, which helped propel them into a playoff scenario. But Ron Harper's impact on the Chicago Bulls goes way beyond the numbers. It's not nothing to do with the numbers. Nothing to do with it. Ron Harper became a 3-time champion on Chicago Bulls, 5 championships overall for Ron Harper, 2 with the LA Lakers after the Chicago Bulls, right? But it was the experience he gathered, he learned, playing alongside Michael Jordan, the practices that he went through alongside Michael Jordan, which helped him, once again, to become a champion on the Bulls, but also helped him to become a champion, right, and add something, right, to the Los Angeles Lakers at the end of his career, right? If you guys remember, he was their starting point guard. What was that, the 2000 or the 2001 championship, if I remember correctly? So Ron Harper, like I said, learned a lot playing alongside Michael Jordan, Chicago Bulls. Things that he wasn't learning playing on the Cleveland Cavaliers or the LA Clippers before that time. And like I said, when you go to the comment section of this weird post, like I said, oftentimes the comments that people who are following and supporting these channels and pages will expose and show you that they don't know what they're talking about because of the people that they're attracting to their page. So when I went to the comment section of some of this stuff, you had somebody in the comments talking about Ron Harper was a star before he played with Michael Jordan. He was a star? How was Ron Harper, or how was he a star? Never made an all-star team, never made an all-NBA. People don't even realize Ron Harper never even made an all-defensive team when he was on the Chicago Bulls. Not saying he wasn't deserving of an all-defensive team because Ron Harper's defense was outstanding. But he never made an all-defensive team on the Chicago Bulls. People act like Ron Harper was first-team all-defense every single year he was on Chicago Bulls. And he made several all-star teams before the Chicago Bulls. And when he came to the Bulls, he had to take a back seat and had to mold and adjust his game to help Michael Jordan. That's not the case. That's what LeBron James' teammates have to do. Michael Jordan's teammates don't have to do anything. All they have to do is do what they do best. You come and do what you're supposed to do. Do your job, and you're going to be all right. Right? That's all you have to do, man. You don't have to change your game up. Once again, Ron Harper, what he did was, like I said, he sacrificed offensive numbers to be more of a facilitator, right? Bring the ball up the court, right? Control and run an offense, but also to be more and focus more on the defensive end. Become more of a defensive-minded player, right? Be like a 3-and-D type of guy, even though Ron Harper was never known for being a jump shooter like that, and he wasn't necessarily a guy that's going to knock down and shoot threes. But that's essentially what his role was. It wasn't about scoring. They didn't need Ron Harper to score, right? They needed Ron Harper to push the ball, play defense, right? Not make mistakes, right? Play with a high IQ. And this is what Michael Jordan's teammates learned in practice. Where to be, right? How to play in the triangle offense. All of this stuff. These are sacrifices that they all made so that they could win. You're sacrificing to win. The GOAT James Kingdom, guys, LeBron James, he still is going to figure this out. He's never sacrificed for his teammates where Michael Jordan sacrificed for Ron Harper. Ron Harper sacrificed for himself so that he could be a champion. He understood. It's not about me coming out here and trying to average 20 points a game on Chicago Bulls. It's not about that stuff. It's about doing my job at the highest level I could. So Ron Harper did that, and he helped the Bulls to a 3-peat. Ron Harper was a key member to that 3-peat. Like I said, he didn't just lollygag out there. He didn't ride on the bench. No, he was a key member. Ron Harper is a champion. He's respected because he decided to sacrifice, right, numbers, stats, so that he could win and be part of something. This is what Michael Jordan allowed for his teammates to do. He allowed the Steve Kerrs, the Ron Harpers, the Luke Longleys, right, the Scottie Pippens, the Dennis Rodmans. He allowed everyone to do what they did best. Michael Jordan sacrificing for his teammates, once again, not putting the burden on them, taking the burden off of them so that they can go out there and play the game. This is what Michael Jordan did for a Ron Harper. This is what Ron Harper did for a Michael Jordan. There's a dynamic there, a give and take. The respect is earned, never given. And Ron Harper earned the respect. The Go James Kingdom guys, they don't get this stuff. They have no clue what they're talking about. That's why they continue to promote their stuff, their weak knowledge on Facebook. And like I said, you look at the people who follow their channel and follow their pages, bunch of weirdos out here, bunch of kids, man, don't know. They weren't around for this stuff. People just don't know, guys. You put out a bunch of stats as if that explains the story. When we all know what Michael Jordan really did for someone like Ron Harper. Made him a champion out there. Earned it in a role. Part of a three-peat. Ron Harper's part of the greatest dynasty in sports, man. And why is he part of this? Because Michael Jordan allowed these guys to have this role. He pushed them in practice. He held them to a standard. You guys know the deal, man. I'll catch you guys on the next one.